The breaking point. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Consortium was an architectural marvel that inspired awe in most visitors. Soaring crystalline arches captured starlight from 3 different suns, splitting it into cascades of color that danced across the polished obsidian floor. Representatives from over 200 different species gathered here to discuss matters of galactic importance, their murmurs creating a symphony of clicks, whistles, and harmonic tones. Ambassador Mira Chen had once been moved by this spectacle. Today, she barely noticed it. Her steps echoed across the chamber as she approached the central podium. The gravity was calibrated to a universal standard, slightly too heavy for humans, slightly too light for many other species, a shared discomfort that was supposed to remind everyone of compromise. The irony wasn't lost on her. "The ambassador from Earth requests an emergency session," she announced, her voice steady despite 48 hours without sleep. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, and her normally immaculate uniform was wrinkled from too many hours in transit. High Chancellor Vextrol, a towering insectoid whose carapace shimmered with iridescent patterns indicating his elevated status, inclined his sensory stalks toward her. "Ambassador Chen, the consortium acknowledges your request, but there are procedural matters that must." "People are dying, Chancellor," Mira interrupted, the diplomatic protocol she'd observed for 15 years suddenly meaning nothing. "The Krelvor attack on Athena Station has already claimed 3,000 human lives. Another 15,000 are trapped with failing life support. Our nearest defense fleet is 4 days out. The consortium outpost on Proxima Centauri could dispatch aid in hours." Murmurs rippled through the hall. The Krelvor representative, a gelatinous mass encased in a hovering environmental sphere, pulsed with indignation. "These are internal security matters," it gurgled through its translator. "The humans expanded into a sector that borders our developmental territories. We issued formal notifications. Notifications that were dismissed by the consortium's territorial committee," Mira countered, bringing up holographic documentation that hovered in the air around her. "The consortium approved our colony plans 5 standard years ago. The Krelvor objection was reviewed and rejected. This is a violation of consortium law." The Zith representative, a crystalline entity that communicated through light pulses, flashed rapidly. "The territorial committee's decision was procedurally flawed. The revision is still pending. Until formal clarification is issued, military intervention would be premature." Mira stared at the assembled representatives, seeking any sign of the alliance that humanity had believed in for nearly a century. Humans had joined the consortium with such hope, finally finding their place among the stars, finally part of something greater than themselves. They had contributed everything. Medical breakthroughs that saved billions across a dozen worlds during the Nexus Plague, engineering innovations that revolutionized interstellar travel, diplomats who mediated countless conflicts between species whose biology made them natural enemies. Earth had opened its universities, shared its art, sent its brightest minds to serve the greater good of all sentient life. And now, when humans needed help, the consortium hid behind procedure. "I have been authorized by the President and Joint Chiefs of Earth's United Government to inform the consortium that this is your final opportunity," Mira said, the words bitter on her tongue. "If aid is not dispatched to Athena Station within the next standard hour, Earth will consider the Galactic Defense Treaty void." The hall erupted. Various species communicated their outrage in a cacophony of sounds, lights, and pheromone releases. Chancellor Vextrol banged his ceremonial staff, the sound cutting through the chaos. "Ambassador Chen, surely you understand that threats cannot expedite consortium decisions. The Security Council must evaluate the tactical situation. The Ethics Committee must approve intervention protocols. And people are dying while you talk," Mira said, her voice cutting through the chamber like a blade. "We've given the consortium everything we have. We've fought in your wars, healed your sick, fed your hungry. And when we ask for the same in return, you debate procedure." In the back of the chamber, Elder Keval of the Tholian Conclave watched with ancient eyes, that had witnessed the rise and fall of galactic powers for millennia. Unlike the others, he recognized what was happening. He had seen it before. "A formal vote must be taken," insisted the Drothi representative, its tentacles gesticulating wildly. "Protocols exist for a reason, Ambassador. Without proper procedure, we descend into chaos." Mira touched the communicator on her wrist. "Captain, what's the status at Athena?" A holographic display appeared, showing real-time footage of the station. Sections were open to vacuum, bodies floating among the debris. Krell warships continued their assault on the remaining habitation sections. "Life support failing in sectors 3 through 7, reported the grim-faced captain. "We're losing people by the minute, Ambassador." The chamber fell silent at the images. The Sindari representative, whose species had been saved from extinction by human medical intervention during the Nexus Plague, shifted uncomfortably. The Moravian delegate, whose home world had been protected by human military forces during the Drothi expansion, looked away. Chancellor Vextral's sensory stalks flattened against his carapace, a sign of discomfort. "Ambassador, we sympathize with your situation, but the consortium cannot act without proper—" "1 hour," Mira interrupted. "You have 1 hour to send aid. After that, humanity walks away." The threat hung in the air. Several representatives exchanged nervous glances. Humanity was a major contributor to consortium resources, technology, and peacekeeping forces. Their departure would leave significant gaps. "You would not survive alone," warned the Krellvor representative, its gelatinous mass darkening with what might have been satisfaction. "The galaxy is dangerous for isolated species." Mira turned to face the Krellvor directly. "Perhaps. But remember this. Humans spent thousands of years fighting each other before we found you. We know war better than peace. If we stand alone, we will stand armed." 1 hour later, Mira Chen stood again before the consortium. The vote had been taken, 127 to 74 against immediate intervention at Athena Station. Procedural concerns and political alignments had outweighed the lives of human colonists. Without a word, Mira unpinned the silver and blue consortium insignia from her uniform and placed it on the podium. The symbolic gesture caused another wave of murmurs. As of this moment, by the authority of Earth's united government, humanity formally withdraws from the Galactic Consortium. All treaties, trade agreements, and defense pacts are hereby nullified. All consortium personnel are required to leave human territories within 30 standard days. All human personnel will be recalled from consortium posts effective immediately. Chancellor Vextral's translator couldn't fully convey the distress in his multi-toned response. "Ambassador Chen, this is an extreme overreaction. The consortium values humanity's contributions enormously. Perhaps a special committee could be formed to address your concerns and—" "We're done forming committees," Mira said, her voice ice. "We're done writing reports that no one reads. We're done sacrificing human lives while waiting for your approval." The Arcturian ambassador, known for his strategic thinking, spoke up. "What will you do? Where will you go? The trading restrictions alone will cripple your economy. The technology embargoes will set your development back decades. You cannot survive without the consortium." Mira allowed herself a small, cold smile. "Watch us." As she turned to leave, Elder Kaval spoke for the first time, his ancient voice somehow carrying throughout the chamber without amplification. "I have seen this before," he said, and the hall fell silent. The Tholians rarely spoke in consortium meetings. "You believe they need you more than you need them. You believe they will return, humbled and desperate for red mission. You are wrong." He fixed his compound eyes on Chancellor Vextral. "You have lost the species that held us together, and you will not understand your mistake until it is too late to correct it." In the following weeks, the galaxy watched as humanity executed the most dramatic political withdrawal in consortium history. Trade hubs emptied of human merchants. Research facilities lost brilliant human scientists. Peacekeeping forces were suddenly without their most effective mediators and tactical experts. On Earth and its colonies, a new determination took hold. For generations, humans had looked outward, seeking acceptance among the stars. Now they looked inward, to their own strength and resilience. In secure facilities across the solar system, projects that had been theoretical explorations under consortium restrictions became active development programs. Ships were retrofitted, weapons systems upgraded. The diplomatic corps was restructured into a strategic intelligence agency. Every resource was directed toward self-sufficiency and security. 6 months after the withdrawal, reports began to circulate about human advances. Without consortium regulations limiting their research, human scientists were making breakthroughs in propulsion, weapons technology, and artificial intelligence that alarmed many former allies. Most concerning to the consortium was humanity's new relationship with previously unaligned species. The nomadic Valkyrie, the isolationist Ta Collective, and the mysterious Shade Enclaves all had established direct diplomatic and trade relations with Earth. These species had avoided the consortium for centuries, distrusting its bureaucracy and politics. With humanity as an intermediary, they were emerging from the shadows. 1 year after the withdrawal, Chancellor Vex Troll received a disturbing report. Human military vessels had been spotted near the edges of multiple systems, moving with stealth technology that consortium sensors struggled to track. They appeared to be mapping consortium defense networks, cataloging vulnerabilities. "Are they planning an attack?" asked a nervous aide. Vex Troll's sensory stalks drooped. "No," he said, "they're preparing for the possibility that we might attack them." The realization was sobering. The consortium had never considered humanity a military threat. Now they had given humans reason to see the consortium as an enemy. "Should we reach out to them?" the aide suggested. "Offer concessions." Vex Troll remembered Ambassador Chen's cold smile as she walked away. "Their trust is gone," he said, "and I fear that what replaces it will reshape the galaxy in ways none of us are prepared for." Elder Keval, watching from his ancient meditation chamber, nodded slowly to himself. The cycle continued as it always had. Arrogance followed by regret, followed by consequences that could not be undone. The age of humanity within the consortium was over. What would come next remained to be seen, but Keval suspected the galaxy would never be the same again. The tables turn. 10 years passed, a mere moment in galactic terms, but an eternity in human innovation. Admiral Helena Reyes stood on the observation deck of the EDF Resilience, Earth's newest flagship. At 2 kilometers long, with an angular silhouette that absorbed rather than reflected light, it represented everything humanity had become in the decade since leaving the consortium: self-sufficient, formidable, and increasingly unknowable to those who had once called them allies. "Admiral, we're receiving another diplomatic request," reported her communications officer. "The Arcturian Commonwealth is asking for an audience. Priority 1. Helena smiled slightly. The Arcturians, once among the consortium's strategic elites, were now reduced to begging for human attention. "Add them to the queue. I'll speak with their representative after the Moravians." "Yes, Mom." That makes 17 consortium members seeking formal contact this week. The observation deck offered a panoramic view of Earth's orbital shipyards, where vessels of all sizes were under construction. Some were research ships, designed to push deeper into unexplored space. Others were colony vessels, built to expand human presence beyond their current territories. And many, far too many for Helena's taste, were warships. The past decade had not been peaceful. The power vacuum left by humanity's withdrawal had destabilized the political balance of the consortium. Old rivalries resurfaced. Resource disputes that human mediators would have resolved through negotiation escalated into armed conflicts. Most concerning was the rise of the Vashnar Empire. Once a minor power on the galactic fringe, they had exploited the consortium's weakened state to seize territory from vulnerable species. Their expansion had been ruthless and methodical, conquering 12 formerly protected worlds in the past 3 years alone. The consortium, hamstrung by its own bureaucracy, had been unable to mount an effective response. Each defensive action required committees, votes, and procedural reviews. By the time consortium forces were deployed, the Vashnar had already secured their new territories and moved on to the next target. "Admiral," her aide interrupted her thoughts, "the Moravian ambassador is ready." Helena nodded and turned to the communication screen. The face that appeared belonged to Ambassador Trell, a Moravian she remembered from her days as a young officer attached to the consortium peacekeeping force. He had aged visibly, the iridescent scales around his eyes dulled with stress. "Admiral Reyes," he began, his translator struggling to convey the complex harmonics of distress in his voice. "I come on behalf of not only Moravia, but a coalition of 15 systems. The Vashnar fleet has been detected on an approach vector to the Lyran Nebula. 3 billion civilians across 5 worlds are at risk." Helena kept her expression neutral. "Ambassador, while I sympathize with your situation, Earth's non-intervention policy has been clear for a decade. The affairs of consortium members are no longer our concern." Trell's gill flaps pulsed rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. "Please, Admiral. The consortium defense fleet is scattered across 3 sectors dealing with other Vashnar incursions. They cannot respond in time. We have no one else to turn to." I seem to recall a similar urgency when human colonists on Athena Station were under attack, Helena said, her voice steady but cold. "The consortium found procedural reasons to deny assistance then." Trell lowered his head, the Moravian gesture of deepest shame. "I voted in favor of aiding Athena. Many of us did, but we were outnumbered by political interests and outdated protocols." He looked up, desperation evident even across species barriers. "We were wrong, Admiral. The consortium was wrong, and we have paid for that mistake every day since humanity left." Helena studied the Moravian, measuring his sincerity against her own lingering bitterness. The Lyran Nebula contained several garden worlds with pre-industrial civilizations, species that would be completely defenseless against Vashnar weapons. "Transmit all tactical data on Vashnar fleet movements to our command center," she finally said. "I make no promises, but we will review the situation." After the communication ended, Helena turned to her strategic officer. Analysis. Commander David Chen, no relation to the famous ambassador who had withdrawn humanity from the consortium, pulled up a holographic display of the sector. "The Vashnar pattern is consistent with their previous conquests. They're targeting the Lyran worlds for their deuterium reserves. Based on their current velocity, they'll reach the outermost planet in approximately 72 hours. And the consortium response." Ambassador Trell wasn't exaggerating. "Their nearest battle group is engaged with Vashnar forces in the Proxima sector. They couldn't redeploy in less than 5 days, even at emergency speed." Helena considered the tactical display. Human territory didn't extend to the Lyran Nebula, but their new propulsion systems, developed without consortium restrictions, had dramatically expanded their effective range. "If we deployed Task Force Sigma, how quickly could we intercept?" Commander Chen calculated briefly. "Using the phase shift drive at maximum capacity, 48 hours. We'd arrive a full day before the Vashnar main fleet." Helena walked slowly around the holographic display, examining the situation from all angles. Earth's official policy was clear: no interference in consortium conflicts. But they had also established their own principles in the years since withdrawal. One of those principles was the protection of developing civilizations. "Contact the Joint Chiefs," she decided. "I'm recommending deployment of Task Force Sigma as a humanitarian mission to evacuate pre-industrial populations from the projected conflict zone." Commander Chen raised an eyebrow. "Just evacuation, Admiral." Helena allowed herself a small smile. "For now. Let's see what the situation looks like when we arrive." 2 days later, the EDF Resilience emerged from phase space at the edge of the Lyran Nebula, accompanied by 5 assault carriers and 12 destroyer-class vessels. The task force moved into a defensive formation around the outermost inhabited world, a blue-green planet where a civilization roughly equivalent to Earth's Bronze Age was developing. Sensors detected the Vashnar fleet approaching. 30 warships in standard conquest formation, their weapons powering up as they registered the unexpected human presence. "They're hailing us," reported the communications officer. On screen, Helena ordered. The Vashnar commander appeared, a hulking figure with armored exoskeletal plates and compound eyes that gleamed with cold intelligence. "Human vessels." The commander's harsh voice came through the translator. "You are outside your recognized territory. These worlds fall under Vashnar Protectorate status by right of proximal claim. Withdraw immediately or be classified as hostile entities." Helena met the alien's gaze steadily. "Commander, I am Admiral Helena Reyes of the Earth Defense Force. We are here on a humanitarian mission to protect pre-industrial civilizations as defined by the Galactic Development Protection Protocols, which Earth continues to honor even after our withdrawal from the consortium. Those protocols are consortium bureaucracy that we do not recognize," the Vashnar responded dismissively. "The resources of these worlds are necessary for the expansion of our empire. The native species will be relocated or incorporated into our labor force as appropriate. That would violate their natural development," Helena countered. "These species are under our protection for the duration of our presence here." The Vashnar commander's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "You have 18 vessels, Admiral. We have 30. Your protection is inadequate." Helena smiled slightly. "Numbers aren't everything, Commander. I suggest you run a more detailed scan of our capabilities before making threats." As if on cue, the human vessels activated their new shield technology, a development that had been theoretical during their consortium membership but had been perfected in the years since. The shields manifested not as the standard energy bubbles used throughout the galaxy, but as layered fields that bent light around the ships in rippling patterns. Additionally, weapon ports opened to reveal armaments that were unrecognizable to standard consortium or Vashnar scanning technology. The Vashnar commander hesitated visibly. "Our intelligence indicated that human military technology had fallen behind without consortium support." "Your intelligence is outdated," Helena replied calmly. "Without consortium restrictions on our research and development, we've had 10 very productive years." She leaned forward slightly. "Let me be clear. Any aggressive action toward these worlds or this task force will be met with the full force of Earth's military response. We are transmitting coordinates for an alternate route that will take your fleet around this sector. I suggest you use it." For several tense moments, the Vashnar commander stared at her, compound eyes unblinking. Helena knew they were running calculations, weighing the risk of engaging an unknown force against the value of the worlds they had intended to conquer. Finally, the commander spoke. "We will withdraw from this sector as a gesture of diplomatic courtesy, but the Vashnar Empire does not recognize human authority in this region. This matter is not concluded." "Understood," Helena replied. "Safe journey, Commander." After the communication ended, her tactical officer reported, "They're altering course, Admiral. Taking the bypass route we suggested." A cheer went up from the bridge crew, quickly silenced by Helena's raised hand. "This was just a test," she cautioned. "They wanted to see what we would do, how we would respond. They'll be back with a larger force once they've analyzed our capabilities. By then, the consortium defenses might be in place," suggested Commander Chen. Helena shook her head. "We can't count on that. Begin orbital scans of all inhabited worlds in this sector. I want detailed maps of population centers, developmental stages, and critical resources. And contact Earth Command. We need to discuss a more permanent solution for the Lyra Nebula." Within hours, news of the confrontation had spread throughout the sector. The consortium representatives for nearby systems sent message after message, requesting information, offering thanks, proposing meetings. 3 days later, as Task Force Sigma maintained its protective position, a consortium diplomatic vessel arrived. Helena was not surprised to see Chancellor Vextrol himself request permission to come aboard. The Chancellor had aged considerably in the decade since humanity's withdrawal. His once vibrant carapace was dulled, and his movements were slower and more deliberate. "Admiral Reyes," he began, his translator conveying a tone of formal respect. "On behalf of the Galactic Consortium, I extend our profound gratitude for your intervention in the Lyran Nebula. The developing species here would have faced extinction or enslavement without your action." Helena nodded acknowledgement but remained silent, waiting. Vextrol's sensory stalks shifted uncomfortably. "Your presence here, so far from Earth, was unexpected. Our intelligence suggested that human military operations were confined to a defensive perimeter around your colonies. We maintain certain operational capabilities outside the public record," Helena replied neutrally. "So it seems." The Chancellor hesitated. "Admiral, I have been authorized by the full Consortium Assembly to open formal discussions regarding humanity's potential return to—" "No," Helena interrupted, her voice firm but not hostile. "Earth has no interest in rejoining the Consortium. We have established our independence and intend to maintain it." Vextrol's translator struggled to convey his complex emotional response, disappointment mixed with resignation and a trace of fear. "Then perhaps we might discuss a mutual defense agreement. The Vashnar threat continues to grow, and your technology appears to have advanced considerably beyond our current capabilities." Helena studied the Chancellor, seeing not the imperious bureaucrat who had denied aid to dying humans, but a leader genuinely concerned for his people. "We would consider limited cooperative engagements against specific threats," she conceded, "but on our terms without consortium oversight or procedural delays." "That would be unprecedented," Vextrol said. "So was our withdrawal," Helena countered. "The galaxy has changed, Chancellor. The Consortium must change with it or become irrelevant." As the discussion continued, Helena reflected on the journey that had brought humanity to this moment. The pain of betrayal had forged them into something stronger, more self-reliant than they might otherwise have become. Their isolation had accelerated innovation born of necessity. Yet humans remained, at their core, protectors and builders. They had withdrawn from the Consortium, but not from the principles that had led them to join it in the first place. The belief in cooperation, in mutual benefit, in the protection of the vulnerable. The galaxy had forced humanity to stand alone, to prove they could survive without allies. Now that they had done so, they could choose their own path forward, not as supplicants seeking acceptance, but as equals offering partnership on their own terms. As Task Force Sigma maintained its vigilant watch over the Lyran worlds, Helena knew this was just the beginning. Humanity had walked away when betrayed, had built strength in isolation, and now returned to the galactic stage not with vengeance, but with purpose. The stars had witnessed humanity's departure in anger. Now they would witness their return with wisdom, on their own terms, with their own vision for a galaxy where strength served justice, not politics. The last diplomatic mission that had ended in withdrawal had given birth to something new. A humanity that no longer needed permission to protect what they valued. The galaxy would never be the same again. And perhaps, Helena reflected as she watched Chancellor Vextrol depart, that was exactly what the galaxy needed.